Okay, I wanted to take just a couple of minutes and talk about your citations, talk about a couple of issues that I'm noticing in some of these annotated bibliographies, and what your final page should look like on your for your essay, your works cited page. We don't call it a works cited, remember, it's going to be our references page. And so that should be bolded and start at the very top. That's the first thing. So make sure that your citations start at the very top of the page. It should be directly underneath the header box, which should have your page number. By this time, it's probably page 4. And then, yeah. So, but it should start at the very top of the page with references, and then your citations start underneath that. So I'm just going to go in here really quick and delete out, because I'm going to be smart and just take the work that I've already completed with my annotated bibliography for my references page. So I'm just taking out these paragraphs really fast. There we go. Okay, now you had to have 5 sources for your annotated bibliography, but you may not have to have that many for that. You may not use all 5 of those. You only have to have 3 mandatory for your research paper. Now you may end up using all 5, and that's okay. But I'm only looking for 3 to be in your references. Anything other than that is just a bonus. Okay, make sure though that you don't just leave them off, even if you're using them. If you use them, make sure that you give proper credit to them. Okay. Also, remember that your works cited should be organized alphabetically with author last name first. So in mine, Ambrosino, DeWitt, Jen, Kim, and PTI are my author's last name, so I made those in alphabetical order. Okay, the next thing that you didn't want to do is make sure that you have no gaps in between your citations. So it's single space in between, and then the actual citations themselves are double space. There should not be these major gaps. I saw a lot of these kind of gaps in between the citations. That is not the case. They kind of butt up against each other. But if they're formatted properly, it doesn't affect their readability because of the use of the hanging indent. Okay? Remember that it's last name, author last name, comma, first initial. If they have their full name listed, like Brian Anthony Ambrosino, it would be Ambrosino, comma, B period, A period. Just whatever the title, whatever the author's name is in the paper is what you have to go by. Then you'll open your parentheses. You'll do your year. The article is written, a comma, the month, and then 21, the date that it was written, and then you close your parentheses. And don't forget this period. A lot of people forgot that closing period after that parenthetical with the date in it. Also remember that your title in APA, I know this is very confusing, and I know like switching back and forth between the 2 forms, the different formatting is kind of challenging. But it's good that you can do both by the end of the semester, because you don't know what you're going to need to be able to use again. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most everybody is using APA these days. And so this particular format is one that you will continue to use on your college career track. So understanding like how it works and getting it right is going to be a really kind of a major deal. But with this, you don't capitalize every single word in the title like we do in MLA, or in your own title, like the title of your paper. So you're going to want to do the first word is always capitalized, and then anything that is proper noun will also be capitalized. If you end up having and this, I'm just messing this up for just a second until I can fix it. If you have one of these little doodads, these little colons, then the first letter past that colon is also going to be capitalized. Okay, those are the rules. Those are the rules for capitalization with APA. So you'll notice I capitalized Americans and I capitalized Koreans, and then here is the first word is here. So here's why millions of Americans are binge watching Korean dramas, period. That is not italicized. The title is not italicized. If you dropped your thing into a APA generator and it churned it out italicized, it's wrong, okay? So don't rely on those. Don't rely on those generated citations. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. It is wrong for it to be italicized, okay? What is italicized is the title of the website, which should follow after your title. And mine was Vox for this first one. And you'll notice that when I go in to drop in my URL, two things. When I drop it in, number one, it's going to immediately adjust it down to the next line, the next full line. And it's also going to leave the hyperlink in place. Well, I don't want the hyperlink in place so that I can tootle with my thing a little bit. So I'm going to break the link so that when I click on it, it does not take me to my article. And it also doesn't change up the way the font color looks in print or in my thing. So I'm keeping in terms of APA. What I want to do now is kind of try to figure out the distance, because I don't want to leave this giant gap in my line. I want to figure out the distance between here and here. How much do I think could fit? Then I want to take a look at my URL, and I want to think about finding a break in it, a logical break that I can adjust this citation. So I'm going to say that I think about this much can fit on the line. I may be wrong, but that might be pretty close. And I always want to do this at a punctuation break. So a dash or a forward slash. If I click the enter button, it's pretty much about correct. Okay, so it led it all the way to that end line. I filled up that second line. Now I just have to adjust this last line. So I'm going to take and I'm going to drag my thing back over to the 0.50, and that should be correct. Okay, so I'll do that one more time. Okay, I found a piece of punctuation. I estimated about this much could fit. I found a piece of punctuation, which was a logical breaking point. I just pushed the enter button. Now it's going to want to tell me to link it back up again. I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to just kind of unlink those things. I'm going to unlink this one, unlink this one. Okay, and then the rest looks okay. All right, the last thing that I want to talk about really quick is in the essay itself. So give me just 1 second. Let me pull up the essay. So I put in my title page that I used for my annotated bibliography. I'm going to use that as the title page for my essay. I'm just going to take off an annotated bibliography. When I do my title, I'm going to capitalize it properly. Only when you're citing do you use that whole capitalization rule. So I'm going to punctuate my title, capitalize my title properly when I do that. You also want to make sure there's probably about 4 spaces. A lot of you just started at the top line, like right underneath the header box. Drop it down about 4 spaces down to do your first line, and then about 3 to 4 for your 5 lines of student information. Okay. So notice that I did a paragraph of introduction. I have a paragraph of conclusion, right? So those, the basics of our essay hasn't changed just because we've added the word research to it. We haven't really changed our format, our structure of what we do. We do an introduction, we do a conclusion, we do an introduction to draw people in, we do a conclusion to tie everything together. We're just changing up just a couple of things in the middle. So you'll notice on my essay, if you've taken the time to read this, and hopefully by this point you have, I did a paragraph on definitions and a paragraph on characteristics. Let me explain why I did that in my paper. So my topic was on Korean dramas, and so I knew that there were going to be a lot of people that were unfamiliar with some of the words that I was using in reference to these Korean dramas. Hallyu was one of them, what a Korean drama, K-drama is, like what that encompasses, and I knew I needed to define that for my audience so that they would be familiar, have enough background information to follow the rest of my essay. So you may or may not have a definition kind of paragraph. You need to just really kind of think about what you have in your paper? What would be unfamiliar to your reader? Is there something that I need to define for my reader to help them understand the rest of my essay? And then I did a paragraph of characteristics. I'm talking about a TV show series, a drama series. And so I wanted to kind of define what that, like the number of episodes, a little about the soundtracks, the original soundtracks, those kinds of things. I wanted to talk about those characteristics. And so I did like a paragraph on that because I felt like that was something that was very critical to understanding. I even went on to kind of talk about, I included some data in here, some information from one of my sources, but up until that point I hadn't done that yet, right? I'd done all it was all me. I had just now dropped in some stuff from my research. So that's the other thing that I want to talk about. When you do your citation, this is also where it's different from MLA. So when you're using a citation for or a quote from a research article in APA, you'll notice that we still do our same thing. If we set up our you set up your quote, and you notice that I did the date here, like right after Melissa DeWitt of Stanford News in 2021. That's from one of my sources. So I'm just going to show you my source right here. Melissa DeWitt, 2021. Okay. I am using that quote, and so we just change up our citation, just our parenthetical, just slightly. The first thing that we do is author last name with a comma. We didn't do that in MLA, but we do that with APA. So we add a comma. You'll notice that there's no page number. It is the year that we include in that instead here in an APA citation. We still close the parentheses. We still drop the period at the end. We're going to do that every single time. So I did that multiple times throughout according to Dow Young Jen and the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs. So I'm just pulling that straight from my thing, Jen. Okay, 2020. And then when I drop my quote in, we're going to stick in that, I can't just jump right there. We're going to stick in the parenthetical citation, Jen, comma, 2020. Okay. So the other thing, the last thing is the subheadings. So I'm using these bolded, left aligned subheadings every time I'm changing directions in my thing. So you'll notice I have one on my definitions, past my introduction. I have one on my characteristics, and then that's when I start my 3 areas. So my 3 areas, my focus of my paper is the accessibility, the diversity, and the relatability of Korean dramas are just a few of the reasons why you should add them to your watch list. So here they are. I have accessibility, just as I listed them in my thesis, diversity, and relatability. Then I did a paragraph on recommendations because I'm recommending to my viewers that they check out these Korean dramas. I left them with some recommendations of things that I really enjoyed and maybe that you would enjoy too. And you can add a section on that as well. And then I have my conclusion followed by my references page, neatly done. All my references in alphabetical order like we went over at the beginning. All right, so hopefully this helps just make some clarifications for setting up your paper in APA. I'm looking forward to reading your research paper. This is the last assignment of the semester. So good luck to you. If you have any questions, don't forget to reach out.